Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. The first really major tournament of the post-nerf Rastakhan's Rumble metagame is about to start tomorrow, and I'm here to bring you some information on what the meta looks like and what the absolute best players in the game think are going to be the best decks. It's the Europe Winter Playoffs, and there will be 80 players who have qualified to the tournament, and this is what the class distribution looks like. Unsurprisingly enough, Hunter. 76 out of 80 players are bringing Hunter. Hunter is the most popular class by a long margin. And following Hunter there's Paladin at 60. Also, even Paladin, odd Paladin, there are lots of strong Paladin archetypes and players are really bringing those in. Priest is third at 50, so Rastakhan's Rumble post-nerf meta has really seen Priest rise, as I'm sure everyone has noticed on the ladder. And after Priest there's Warlock and Rogue. Warlock's not that common right now on the ladder, but a bunch of players are still trusting it for these playoffs. What's maybe a little bit surprising to me is that Warrior is actually quite a bit popular than the bottom three classes, Shaman, Druid and Mage. And Druid is actually more popular than Mage. Mage seems to be really struggling. And while Druid is not a very common sight on ladder right now, there are some players who think that Druid has a number of good matchups and it's suitable for a tournament metagame where you can ban one of your opponent's decks. That is the class distribution, that's like the pure raw stuff. But what about we go a little bit deeper? Go deeper into the archetypes and lineups. There are 28 different archetypes in this tournament, which is quite a huge variety actually. These playoff tournaments typically don't see a large variety of archetypes. Players really want to succeed here. So while we have Hybrid Hunter at 48 players, more than half of the players are bringing Hybrid Hunter, then there are lots of other stuff coming right behind it. Odd Rogue is the second most popular, followed by Mind Blast Priest, then even Paladin, even Warlock. A little bit of a surprise maybe. Lots of people like Vicious Syndicate are saying that even Warlock is not doing that great right now. I can't really attest to that my personal experience. I played some Even Warlock recently and I did fairly well with it, but there are lots of people saying that Even Warlock's star is going downwards. So Even Warlock being this popular and being the most popular Warlock archetype ahead of CAuvCAsrDAtHhAovlAqbvAgA, which is only brought by 9 players, can be considered a bit of a surprise. Odd Paladin is also there at 22, so Even Paladin is slightly more popular than Odd in this tournament, and both Even and Odd Paladin are effective archetypes, and they are also competing on ladder neck and neck, so that's the same that goes on here as well. There are also some very exotic choices, such as Shadowrock Shamans, but not the OTK type of course, that died with the nerfs, but nonetheless. Type of Shadowrock Shaman makes an appearance, Control Warriors, Fatigue Priest, even a Quest Warlock is in this tournament. I will make another video of these more exotic choices, so stay tuned to my channel to see that one later. In this one we're going to take a look at the lineups and the more popular choices first. So looking at the most popular lineups, the most popular lineup brought by 7 players is Hybrid Hunter, Even Paladin, Mind Blast Priest, Odd Rogue. And note also that if you just switch Even Paladin for Even Shaman, there's another 4 players who have those 3 other classes. So Hybrid Hunter really dominates these popular lineups. And other than that you can see that Odd Rogue, Mind Blast Priest, Even and Odd Paladin are also being brought a lot. But what about looking into these most popular archetypes a little bit in more detail? So, for example, Hybrid Hunter. Hybrid Hunter is the most popular archetype brought to the tournament, brought by 48 players. But are there any differences between the builds? And there are some. Well, all of them are Dire Frenzy builds. All 48 out of 48 players have Dire Frenzy in the Hybrid Hunter. And all 48 have many secrets in common. Explosive Trap, Freezing Trap, Wandering Monster and Venom Strike Trap are in every single Hybrid Hunter list in at least 1 copy. Tundra Rhino is also very common in these Hybrid Hunter builds. 45 out of 48 have brought Tundra Rhino. And an interesting thing, which might have significance also for ladder play, because this archetype has been taking the share of Hunter decks on ladder as well, is that this archetype doesn't always run weapons, so the value of Ooze against Hunter is decreasing. And in this tournament, for example, 48 hybrid Hunters, only 21 of them have any kind of weapon in the deck. Usually it's a candle shot, a couple of times it's an eagle horn bow, but less than half of the hybrid Hunters have any weapons. Also, only a minority of hybrid Hunters are running tracking in the list. Tracking can have some downsides to you when you're playing Zul'jin and you want to get all of your spells cast again that you have cast in the game, and then tracking ends up discarding a bunch of cards. That might end up costing you, so many players have cut tracking from this type of list. The list that is displayed on the screen is Faeli's, and this list is very well representative of an average hybrid hunter list that is being brought to this highest level of competition right now. There are no weapons like in the majority of decks, and there is no tracking. You can find deck codes of all the decks I talk about here down in the description, so if you want to grab this to play, then head down there. The next most common archetype is Oddrogue. And what about Oddrogue? What kind of Oddrogues are we seeing? Well, Dark Reaper has become a staple right now in the current meta. There have been times when Dark Reaper has been criticized a lot in Oddrogue, but right now it seems to be doing quite a good job. It's also pretty good against Hunter, for example. So 32 out of 32, every Oddrogue player in the tournament is bringing Dark Reaper. The majority of them, 22 out of 32, are also bringing Crystallizer. This one drop has typically been good in Oddrogue mirrors, and it has a bit of consistency in getting those one drops and getting that good on-curve start at the expense of making your later draws slightly weaker. But it's really found a position in these players' lists. Void Ripper, also very common. 21 out of 32 players are bringing Void Ripper. Void Ripper can give you surprise lethals, because you have stuff like Dark Reapers and stuff like Crystallizers and these minions that have more health than attack, so you can flip that up and off you go. Or it can weaken an opponent's taunt minion that has a lot of health and not so much attack. 21 out of 32 players trust Void Ripper. There's actually only one player who has brought Ironbeak Owl. I like Ironbeak Owl a lot, but the top players seem to think that Void Ripper is the way to go. Captain Greenskin is also fairly common, 17 decks out of 32, so slightly more than half of the decks include the Captain. And other interesting observations about the Oddrogue lists are that Edwin Van Cleef is played in only 5 lists out of 32. Edwin was never quite as good in Oddrogue as it is in Miracle, because in Miracle you just make a huge Edwin very early, whereas Oddrogue doesn't have quite as many tools to do that. Blinkfox is only found in 1 list out of 32, but Blinkfox was always kind of the weakest 3-drop and the first one you drop out of the list if you have something better that you need to play. And then as an interesting and rising tech, Snapjaw Shellfighter, the epic minion that protects the minions adjacent to it, is seeing play in 7 lists out of 32. Not in this one though, this is pretty much what an average Oddrogue in the tournament looks like. This is Feno's list in this tournament. And the deck code of this one also is down below in the description. One of the more interesting archetypes in this tournament, I think, is the Mind Blast Priest, sometimes called the Control Priest. Play Shadow Reaper Anduin, play some Mind Blasts, control the face of the opponent. And you can clearly see that the Mind Blast Priest list have not yet been fully settled. Because okay, there are some things like 29 out of 31 list run Cabal Shadow Priest, and obviously every single list runs Anduin and Mind Blast, yeah. But then there's a pretty big divide. There's like 23 of the 31 lists run Holy Fire right now. Holy Fire has really become more popular in this metagame. There have been times when Holy Fire has been bad in the list. There have been times when Holy Fire and the additional reach and a little bit of healing that it gives you have been really good. And right now its popularity has been rising very quickly in post-nerf Rastakhan's Rumble meta. But then there is quite a question on stuff like Divine Hymn, Wild Pyromancer. With the Odd Paladin going out, with the nerfs, although I guess it's back in again. Then Wild Pyromancer, Divine Hymn, the popularity of these cards has been going down on ladder, but they are still quite popular in the list that are being brought to this tournament, with 19 out of 31 bringing Pyromancer and 22 out of 31 bringing the Divine Hymn. But clearly there's somewhat of a change or uncertainty going on. Are these cards that belong in the list or are they not? Same goes with Tar Creeper, which on the other hand is rising. It wasn't part of the list earlier, but now Tar Creeper is becoming much more common. Also because it's good in the Hunter matchup. Whereas the Dragon package is also undergoing lots of changes and uncertainty. 19 out of 31 are bringing Scale Worm. 19 out of 31 only are bringing the Fire Tree Witch Doctor, which I think is pretty surprising because Fire Tree Witch Doctor was one of the most hyped cards for this archetype in Rastakhan's Rumble, and it saw a lot of play, and now it's seeing a little bit less play because people are not sure what kind of Dragon package they're bringing, which you can see for example in the pretty stunning number that only 7 out of 31 Mind Blast Priests include Crowd Roaster in this tournament. Based on these numbers, I have to say that it's very hard to say what is the good Mind Blast Priest right now, because players have very different opinions about that. Be that as it may, this is something that's fairly representative of the average opinion right now. This is BoarControl's Mind Blast Priest. This one still has the Wild Pyromancers in it, but it also has introduced the Tar Creeper, and the Holy Fire is making an appearance. But Mind Blast Priest is definitely in flux right now, and it's hard to say what is the best build. Even Paladin builds are also kind of in flux, but they are a bit more stable. We have seen that Spirit of the Tiger is going down. 1 out of 25 lists include Spirit of the Tiger here. It seemed like such an automatic inclusion at the start of Rastakhan's Rumble, but now players are doubting it more and more. However, they have also not returned to Valanier builds. 8 out of 25 are bringing Valanier. So most of the lists are simply leaving both Valanier and Spirit of the Tiger out, and just relying on strong on-curve plays. Silence has become almost stable in even Paladin, with 23 out of 25 bringing Spellbreaker, and running double 8 drops has also become much more common. At one point even Paladin was mostly about the Lich King as an 8 drop, but now 16 out of 25 have added Tyrion alongside the Lich King. Mojo Master Zihi is currently included in 3 out of the 25 lists. This list is fairly representative of your average even Paladin list in the tournament. This is Orange's list. He does have one copy of Amani Berserker in this list, which is only in 12 out of the 25 builds. But other than that, this is pretty cookie cutter. When it comes to even Warlock, players have moved back to Doomsayer builds. Doomsayer used to not have a place in even Warlock for a long time. You were running Bladed Beetles and you were running Defiles, but now 19 out of 24 players are bringing Doomsayer as part of the build. Also 17 out of 24 players have included Bonemare in the deck. Bonemare has seen resurgence for some time already, and now it has reached a fairly popular level. Then there is the matter of the 6 mana slot tech cards. That's always an argument when it comes to even Warlock. This sample list is from Moyen, and it doesn't have any 6 mana cost tech cards, and that is the most popular approach in this tournament. There are 4 Mojo Master Zihis in that slot, 1 Mossy Horror, 1 Nerubian Unraveler, 3 Skulking Geists, 2 Rins, and 2 Black Knights. So that's really a tech slot that causes a lot of discussion, but in this tournament the majority have chosen not to include that tech card at all. Did I mention already that Odd Paladin is back? Well, I'm sure you have noticed that on ladder as well. 22 players are bringing Odd Paladin, and Frostwolf Warlord has stabilized its position as the replacement to level up. 22 out of 22. Every single player has the Warlord in their Odd Paladin. Some of the more interesting things are that Witch's Cauldron has rapidly risen in popularity. 17 out of the 22 players are using Witch's Cauldron in their decks, whereas Stormwind Champion is used only by 2 players, and really notably, 0 of the 22 players have brought Prince Liam in their Odd Paladin. That's kind of a surprise because Vicious Syndicate is talking about how good Prince Liam is. HS Replay shows that many of the top builds, but not all, do include Prince Liam in them, but none of the players here trust Prince Liam enough, at least in the tournament meta. This TechnoGoose's sample list is pretty representative of what an odd Paladin looks like right now. Double Witch's Cauldron, double Frostwolf Warlord. Finally, let's talk a little bit about Odd Warrior, because 20 players have chosen to bring Odd Warrior, and these Odd Warrior builds are not Dragon Odd Warriors. 3 lists out of 20 include Emberscale Drake, which is the definitive dragon of a Dragon Odd Warrior, so anyone who has Dragon Odd Warrior would include that card. In contrast, 20 out of 20 players have included Daihon Hatchling. Early in Rastakhan's Rumble, people were cutting these fatigue wing conditions, but they are back in force right now. They're actually back in force a lot more than they used to be, because 17 out of 20 have included Faceless Manipulator, and 14 out of 20 have included Carnivore's Cube. So you can make a lot of Daihon Hatchlings with these Odd Warrior builds. And Daihon Hatchling is the main way to go to fatigue with these builds, because only 10 out of 20 have included Elise, well, that is still half. But the other tech cards that I find interesting, only 4 out of 20 have mind control tech right now, so that has really went down, whereas 6 out of 20 are bringing Thinkmaster over Spark in their Odd Warrior. I've always loved Thinkmaster, and it's fun to see that even though it's not the most common text choice, at least it makes an appearance. It does not make appearance in this sample list though. This is Zerios's Odd Warrior, and this is quite representative of what they look right now. 2 Daihon Hatchlings, 2 Carnivore's Cubes, 2 Faceless Manipulators, Zola the Gorgon. That's just quite a lot of power out there, in ways that Odd Warrior has not used to have it. That was an overview of the meta and the most popular archetypes at EU Winter Playoffs in January 2019. The games are starting tomorrow, you can watch them on Twitch at Play Hearthstone channel, and stay tuned for more coverage on this channel as well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.